Welcome to Healthy Aging Intervention to Maintain Independence and Slow Sarcopenia. Hi, I'm Wendy Lynch, Regional Specialized Agent for the Central District in Florida.
And I'm Jana Anderson. I am a Family and Consumer Science Agent in Florida, in Orange County.
And today we are excited to share more about our intervention for healthy aging. We're going to look at the need and purpose of the program, the objectives and methods. We're also going to share results and feedback from our participants in the program, and we'll take you through what the intervention looks like from start to finish. And we'll wrap up today's session with information on how to become a program leader in your area. So we're going to start with the need, and I'm just going to read through some of the national statistics. So by 2030, 1 in 5 residents will be of retirement age, and that's just around the corner. 1.9 million will require nursing home care. In the census document, Living Longer, a historical and projected life expectancy in the United States from 1960 to 2060, Medina and colleagues projected that by 2034, which is really just around the corner, the 65 and older population will outnumber those under 18 for the first time in U.S. history. And by 2060, 1 in 4 will be 65 and older. So in our state, 20.9% of Florida's population is made up of adults 65 and older. And in the 2 counties represented in today's presentation, we have Orange County, which is one of the urban counties. You might be familiar with Orlando, which is 12.3% of adults are 65 and older. And in the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation County Health Rankings, Orange County is number 8 on the healthiest side of the rankings in overall health. Then we also have Putnam County, which is a very rural community, and it has 23.7% adults, 65 and older, and currently ranked 66th in the county health rankings. So we thought it would be a good representation to show how the program works in both a rural and urban setting, as well as both sides of the health ranking scale. So aging is often associated with a progressive decline in muscle mass, strength, and functional movement. This loss of muscle mass is known as sarcopenia, which is one of those major causes of adults losing their independence. Sarcopenia is defined differently by different organizations. However, the definition only varies slightly. Most will always include a measure of muscle mass as well as function. Sarcopenia affects 30% of adults over 60, and the number increases to 50% by age 80. And I think 80 is the new 20 these days, so that's a big number. Sarcopenia is related to not only poor health outcomes, but also premature death. Sarcopenia also impacts activities of daily living, or ADLs, which are functional movements. Basically, those are the actions that we need to be able to do on a daily basis for quality of life. It includes getting dressed, or taking a bath. The Florida Department of Elder Affairs presented a report that assessed the needs of Floridians 60 and over and found 16% needed assistance with bathing, 10% needed assistance in the bathroom, 13% getting dressed, walking 19%, and 18% had mobility concerns, often after experiencing a fall. So how do we prevent or slow sarcopenia? One intervention is strength training. The physical activity guidelines for Americans, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, they recommend implementing strength training on 2 or more days per week, and it includes exercises to help reduce risk of falling by incorporating exercises to improve balance, maintain or improve balance. To address the need, we chose to implement StrongBodies, an evidence-based strength training program that was developed by Dr. Miriam Nelson and Dr. Seguin Fowler, which addresses a growing aging population in Florida and the need for an effective, safe strength training program, all to reduce risk of sarcopenia and loss of independence in older adults. And our program objective for participants is to improve their strength, flexibility, and functional fitness. And you can see in this image, we have some folks in one of our StrongBodies classes. This is in Orange County. they're getting their tricep extension on. We had 9 cohorts between the 2 counties, in Orange and Putnam counties, with a total of 87 participants. And we implemented 2 different types of sessions. So we had an 8-week as well as a 10-week. However, both included sessions twice a week for 1 hour. The StrongBodies strength training program targets all muscle groups, and Jana is going to do a really great job of going through all of the muscle groups more in detail, connecting those exercises to those muscle groups a little bit later in today's talk. And program implementation also includes a pre and post senior fitness test and weekly participant tracking of each exercise. Here's some results that we wanted to share, and that's 53% improved strength in at least 5 of the 8 strength training activities measured. And it's hard not to smile because we're so proud of our participants. And they also did extremely well in our pre and post senior fitness test, which was completed by 74 participants. But if you notice that each of the individual exercises, chair stand, arm curl, etc., they have different numbers of who participated, and that's due to physical limitations. And Jana's going to talk a little bit more about that when she tells us more about the senior fitness test. We hope that this part of today's presentation is going to be very helpful if you're interested in implementing the program. We're going to take you through a snapshot from start to finish of the program implementation, and feel free to get up and move when we are describing some of the exercises. And I know Jana will want me to say, don't forget to get up and warm up first. No injuries during our presentation, please. But we're going to go through marketing all the way down through our assessments. First up is the marketing, and marketing included our traditional methods, as most of us do in extension. In Putnam County, which that rural community, we rely on our newspaper quite a bit. So we had our announcements there, and you can see there's actually a feature story in one of our newspapers. But we also marketed through, again, more traditional methods, using flyers at a variety of community centers and healthcare providers, as well as we use social media and using our email blasts. When you are ready to enroll participant, there are a few forms to complete. So enrollment forms are used to capture not only medical history, current health status, as well as activity level. And we provide them with an enrollment packet, and they're given a welcome letter, waivers, consent forms, including for photography. So we have really awesome photos for presentations, just as this, and class calendars, which you see on the slide. So in that calendar, we've color coded it so you know what's an actual session versus the pre and post assessment. Also include physician letters and authorization forms. And a special note that in Orange County, Jana used the physical activity readiness questionnaire, or the PAR-Q, which you might be familiar with. It's a common method of uncovering health and lifestyle issues prior to starting an exercise program. It's going to determine whether or not you need that additional step of that physician authorization. However, in Putnam County, I opted out of the PAR-Q and required physician authorizations for all my enrolled participants.
Okay, so let's do a quick makeup of what an actual session will look like. So we start with strength training exercises, flexibility, and balance. That is the core of the class. So as Wendy said before, always warm up. So we begin with a warm up, then we go through the series of exercises, doing the strength training exercises, and we end with balance, a cool down, and flexibility exercises as well. And you'll see on the screen that it says optional health and nutrition handouts. You can use this as a part of your session or your program. You will find that some participants like to come in early because they like to chat, and they form, a friendship in groups with the people that they are in the class with. Or you may find that it'd be better at the end after they have completed their workout. You just want to make sure wherever you choose to implement that they're able to retain that information and also continue to be engaged in the exercise session. So these are the typical exercises that we go through in a session. So we typically start with the wide leg squat. We have the overhead press, the bicep curl, bent forward fly, wrist curl, tricep extension, standing calf and toe raises, back extension, tummy tuck, side leg raise, chest press, and we do this using the dumbbells. We do balance exercises, which is the tandem walk and the one-legged stork, and then we do our cool down. And when they first start to come in at the beginning of your session, you really want to also make sure that you engage with each participant at the beginning, because you want to establish rapport with them. You want them to increase their feeling of self-efficacy, and you want them to have confidence in you as an instructor and also in themselves that they can continue to do this and be able to lift the weights safely. So this is a picture of the muscle groups that we use, and it's a good idea that you become familiar with this if you decide to implement this program in your county. Not that we have to be anatomy instructors, and I kind of feel like one when I do this slide, but it's really a really good idea that you know where the muscles are in the body or the general region, because you want to pick up on those individuals that may have improper form, which can of course lead to injury. So if you look in the chat, we're going to put a link in there for you to be able to look at this on your own or keep it for later. So just keep looking in the chat, and we're going to put that in there. So I'm going to start with the overhead press, so top to bottom, and this involves the trapezius, the anterior deltoid, which is the front of your shoulder, triceps brachii, of course, in the back of your arm. And this is how they will use, these are the muscles that they will use to actually lift the dumbbells for the overhead press. So it's basically shoulder and a little bit of the back area. With the chest press, they use the dumbbells for this one also. And the muscles that are involved is the anterior deltoid and your chest muscle. So you'll have the pectoralis major and minor involved in doing this exercise. The bent forward fly is an exercise that I find even towards the middle and end of class that you will have to walk around in correct form. It's kind of difficult, especially if they have not been lifting weights for a while or have been inactive. So you really want to know what muscles they should be using. So it's the posterior deltoid, so it's the back of the shoulder this time that they should be engaging and using, and then your rhomboid major, and then that middle section of your back, the big muscle coverage is your latissimus dorsi, so that you should use a lot of the back and then the back of the shoulder. Bicep curl, everybody is familiar with this one. It uses that muscle in the very front of your arm, so you're going to use your brachialis and your biceps brachii, which is the front and the side of your arm. Wrist curl, believe it or not, as easy as it sounds, this one is another that you have to correct form. During this exercise, you want their forearm to be connected or touching their thigh throughout the entire exercise. And they will either lift their elbows or lift their wrists the wrong way. So this is another one to kind of keep your eye out for. So it's really all of those muscles in your forearm. So your extensors and your extensor capri ulnaris, which is on the pinky side, and your radialis is on the thumb side. So it's the entire forearm. And the back extension, it uses your erector spinae muscles, and they're connected to your spine. So it's under all of those different layers in your back. And this is what kind of helps keep us erect, and it helps to strengthen our core, as well as the tummy tuck. This is the next one. So it uses those muscles in the very front, which would be your rectus abdominis, and on the side, which would be your external obliques. So it uses the front and the side of your stomach. It's where we get our six-pack. And then we have the wide leg squat, which should be another familiar exercise to people. You use the big muscle group in the front, so your quads is what we call them. And then you use the adductor group. So we're adding to our body. So it's the muscles that are on your inner thigh. So it's the front and sides and insides of your thighs for the wide leg squat. And then we have the side hip and leg raise. The muscles that are involved in this are the muscles actually on the outside. So we use the abductor muscle group that's located on your outer thigh. Then we round out with the standing calf and toe raises. And both of these exercises will use the lower leg and the calf muscles. And like I said before, being familiar with these specific body parts, or at least the general area of where they are on the body, will definitely help you identify those participants that may be struggling or have improper form. And of course, we don't want anyone to get injured, so we try to correct that as soon as we possibly can. And so we have examples here of strength training exercises. This is in the Putnam County office, and the 3 pictures that you see on the screen, the first one is the overhead press. That was the very first exercise that we went over. The back extension, and this is a modified version, and then we have the chest press, and we see the individual on the mat, and she's lifting those dumbbells to complete the exercise. So typically with modifications, they are used with individuals that have limited range of motion, knee problems, someone that could be severely overweight, amputees, weakened muscles due to either surgery or an injury, and anyone who experiences pain. And if you're lifting weights for the first time, everyone may say, this hurts, I'm in pain, but we have to make them understand and realize the difference between a little bit of discomfort and pain. We no longer follow the phrase, no pain, no gain. We don't want them to hurt. We want them to know that it may be a little uncomfortable, but they should definitely not have any pain when doing these exercises. Evaluations. So we have a pre and post senior fitness test, which we'll go over in a second. And of course, this measures functional movements that people would typically do throughout their day. And then they have a tracking mechanism that they keep every time they come in class of every exercise, between 8 or 12, depending on what you choose to do. They're going to write down what the weight was and how many they were able to complete, or whatever we did in class for that day. So the functional movements in the pre and post senior fitness test, it typically measures bending, lifting, reaching, standing, and walking. So you're going to do that at the very beginning of your session, and probably about 3 to 4 months after, just to have a measurement to see where they are. And then at the very, very end of your session, whether you choose to do 10 weeks or 8 weeks, you will give them a post-evaluation survey. We are going to create a Qualtrics link here in Orange County to start doing it that way, but prior to, we use the paper version. And the questions just range from, how do you feel? Did it meet your expectations? Was it above your expectations for this class? And then it goes a little more in depth and in detail about the physical part of the class. Do you feel better as a result of taking this class? So let's go over the pre and post senior fitness test. So you will have stations set up in a room, and you will have your individuals come in, and they will do these exercises at each station. So we have the chair stand, the arm curl, 6-minute walk test or 2-minute step test, chair sit and reach, the back scratch test, and the 8-foot get up and go. So this test was done by 2 doctors, and they wrote a book called the Senior Fitness Test Manual, and their names are Roberta Rilke, she's a doctor, and C. Jesse Jones. They both are professors at California State University in Fullerton, California. And they tested hundreds of men and women all over age 60. I will caution and say that you may have an enrollee or a participant that is younger than 60. It is still advised that they complete the test, and then they can just use their measurements in comparison. Okay, if I'm 55, this is what I should be doing as compared to a 60-year-old. So I would encourage them to still complete the test. And it's recommended that at the beginning of doing these tests, because they're working out, please make sure that your participants warm up. Please make sure that they eat and they have on comfortable clothes and comfortable shoes, so they're able to complete each exercise. As you go around with the station, make sure that you explain thoroughly what they need to do. And it's also okay to demonstrate. And I usually demonstrate at each station, because sometimes by station 3 you forget, what was I supposed to do? At station 1 you just kind of forget. So I always try to demonstrate and show them what they need to be doing at each station. If someone experiences pain and they're not able to complete the exercise, just completely omit it and figure out what the issue is, and if they're able to proceed to the next station, then they can go on to the next station. All right, so this is the chair stand. So this is going to measure lower body strength. So what you're going to need for this station is a chair and a stopwatch, and you want to make sure that a chair is against the wall. It's not in this photo, but typically the chair should be against the wall. And you're going to have a volunteer at each station. If you don't have enough people to be at each station, you can stagger them. When Wendy did her test in Putnam County, she would stagger her participants to come in at different times, so she would be able to go to each station with them. So you need a stopwatch and a chair. You're going to have the participants sit in the middle of the chair, back straight and their feet flat on the floor. And you're going to simply have them rise to a full stand, and then they're going to sit back down. You can give them 2 practice rounds so they get comfortable in what they're doing. And then you're going to count in 30 seconds how many times they're able to stand and sit completely in the chair, write that number down, and be able to move to the next station, which is the arm curl. So this is just like a bicep curl that we have here. You will need dumbbells, 5 pounds for women, 8 pounds for men, and a chair with a straight back, which should also be against the chair. You want the participant, as they're doing this test, to hold it in whatever their dominant arm is. So if they're righties, they're going to hold that dumbbell in the right. Lefties, you're going to hold that in your left hand. You're going to hold it. Starting position is perpendicular to the floor, and your palms will be facing in. And as they lift that weight, they're going to rotate their forearm and bring the palms facing in as they complete the upper part of the exercise. And you want them to extend fully all the way back down to complete 1 repetition of this particular exercise. So of course, after you explain what they need to do, you give them 2 practice rounds, you give them the signal to go, and then you count how many they can do, completing a full range of motion in 30 seconds. And then of course, you would write that number down. So here we have the 6-minute walk test and the 2-minute step test. A little more is involved with this one. You have to have a rope, some tape, and a step counter. And what you're going to do, if you choose not to do the 6-minute walk test, here in Orange County, we use the 2-minute step test. And so you're going to have them next to a wall, and you're going to measure the spot on their body between the iliac crest, which is the very top of your hip, and your kneecap. So whatever that midpoint is on their thigh, you're going to mark that and put a piece of tape or a marker on the wall. This will signal to the participant how high they actually need to lift their knee to perform this test. You give them 2 practice rounds of lifting whatever leg they choose to lift, whatever feels most comfortable for them. On your signal for go, they lift their knee up and down to the marked spot as many times as they possibly can. You write the number down when they are done. And after this station, you really want to recommend that they do some sort of cool down for about 60 seconds just to make sure that their heart rate returns to normal. Our next exercise, or actually we'll measure flexibility. So this is our sit and reach test. This chair should also be against the wall, and you need a chair and an 18-inch ruler or a yardstick. As we have in this photo up here, you want to have them sit straight in the chair, and then you want to extend one leg with your foot flexed, not pointed. And you have to make sure that you tell them the difference, because a lot of times they want to point that toe down, but they want to keep it up and flexed, and the other leg should be bent forward. When they begin to reach out and extend in front of their bodies, they want to cross their hands in front of their body, making sure that the middle fingers are aligned together, and then they reach out as far as they possibly can. If they are not able to reach the toe, then you're going to have a negative score of whatever the measurement is. If they're able to reach their toe, then they're at a 0. And then if they're able to go beyond their toe, which is absolutely wonderful, then you give them a positive score with whatever the measurement may be. You can give them some practice runs and let them do it 2 times, and then you write the number down. Now we have the back scratch test. Pretty much same equipment is needed for this one as well. You are going to have them stand up in a complete stand, and you're going to have them place one hand, doesn't matter which one, whatever arm they prefer, over the same shoulder and palm side down. As you can see in the picture, one palm is down, and then you're going to take the opposite hand, middle of the back around your waist, and that palm is going to be facing out. You're going to instruct them to try to reach their hands together as close as they possibly can. Whoever is at the station and giving instruction, it's okay for them to guide their fingers closer together so they can know where they are and try to reach behind them. But you can have them practice 2 times as you did in your other stations, and then you record 2 additional times after that. Same way with scoring. If they're not able to touch, then they get a negative. If the middle fingers touch, then they get a 0. If they extend past the middle fingers, then you would give them a positive score with whatever the measurement would be. And finally, we have our 8-foot get up and go. Wendy and I laugh about this because people have a tendency to try to cheat because they want to get to that chair as fast as they can. So, Wendy said they'll like sling their leg over the cone and try to go back really fast instead of doing a complete circle to get back to the chair in a timely fashion. And also with this, you want to make sure that they have really good traction under their shoes and that there's no debris on the floor so they won't slip, because they're going to be rounding a corner. And sometimes, as we age, we do have issues with balance. So if we can tell them to have good shoes and make sure that the floor is clean before you start this exercise. So you're going to need a cone, a chair that's against the wall, and a stopwatch for this. At the chair, you're going to have a marker where they would stand behind or sit in the chair, and the marker would be in front of the chair. You're going to measure 8 feet out, put the cone there, and instruct them on the signal to go. They would stand, walk as fast as they possibly can around the cone, and then back to a fully seated position to complete this exercise. You can give them practice rounds to go 2 times, and then on your signal to go, they would do 2 additional times. You can write down both times, but you want to make sure that you circle the time that is the fastest. So that rounds out the senior fitness test. What we do with those values, so everything that we have written down in the fitness test, we're going to give these measurements to these individuals along with these normative values. So this test and the values were formed for individuals that were over the age of 60, like I said before. And this is based on nationwide performance of men and women, over 7,000. And the author that wrote the book, of course, she has refined this and done a lot of research on this. And so it just really helps us as educators and as practitioners to use this score to help identify goals and help people reach the age of 90 and still be independent and still be able to move. So it shows you where some of your issues may be. You may be lacking in flexibility, so that helps us to know that we need to focus on that a little bit more. You may be a little bit weak as opposed to what you were when you were 40, so we know we need to really work on that strength. So we use those normative values, and we continue to use those as comparisons as we do the pre and post test with all of our participants.
And so now we're hoping that we are enticing you to become a StrongBodies leader. But as a StrongBodies leader, you are responsible for first attending the leader training to understand not only the program principles, but implementation as well as safety. And once you're trained, you're ready to begin, you can host an informational meeting. And at that meeting, it's really a time for you to share, again, about the program with your potential participants, and they can assess whether it's a good fit for them. It's an opportunity for you to go ahead and provide some of that screening and enrollment paperwork. We want it to be a safe and appropriate program for everyone included. So as a leader, you're going to conduct the pre and post assessments, just like Jana just shared with you, as well as some of those evaluations, the post-session evaluations. But being a leader does not end when the class is over. You are charged with inspiring and encouraging your participants, not only during the process, but beyond. I know we both still stay in contact with our participants. I've had a few that have said, hey, we're out on the RV for the summer and I'm strength training as we go. So it's very exciting to maintain that encouragement. Next, I'd like to share with you how to become a StrongBodies leader based on our training experience in Wisconsin with Angela Flickinger. Now, some of the requirements to become a leader are to have instructional experience in health and fitness in a public or community setting, and also to be actively strength training. And you can see also as a nonprofit, and of course, a commitment to start the program. And it's recommended to have a certification from American College of Sports Medicine or American Council on Exercise, just to name a few, but it's not required. CPR certification is highly recommended. I recommend you most definitely getting that certification. The cost for the Wisconsin training is $350, and Wisconsin does have an upcoming training December 10th in Appleton, Wisconsin, is where Jana and I both trained. The one-day leader training includes a manual, how to properly complete each of the exercises, You go through those exercises while you're there with Angela and her team. It also allows you to have access to the Wisconsin program website, the materials, which we're going to go more into, which those are fantastic, a t-shirt, as well as lunch and refreshments. And if you are a current StrongBodies leader and you've implemented the program for at least 6 months, and you've completed that base training, then you can pursue that advanced training online, which is self-paced modules. And what Jana and I both have discovered is that you're going to have repeat participants, and you want them to have a great experience. You want them to continue making improvements, not only in their strength, but balance and flexibility. And that advanced training gives you an opportunity to add variety as well as new challenges for the participants. So what is in that StrongBodies toolkit that I mentioned that's available through the Wisconsin training? As you've seen throughout the program today, or the presentation today, you've seen the different logos, which I love. They've updated those just recently. Also, promotional materials are already ready to go. Flyers, info, meeting presentation, and a script. It has the first class notification flyer, class flyers, brochures, press releases, supporting research. The list goes on. They also have one thing as a new leader, they have a schedule for starting a new program. So it gives you a timeline of when to start that marketing and a realistic approach. So very helpful as a new leader. All the screening and participant forms that we mentioned, as well as the exercise video demonstrations. So if you leave the training and you're like, how was I supposed to do that? You've got a reminder. They also have exercise movement sheets. So it takes you step by step, as well as the poster that we shared in the chat, training tips and modifications, and of course that senior fitness test, which is important for your evaluation, including those normative values. So what do you need? For site, I would say you want to have a room that's at least 200 to 400 square feet to have enough room to complete the exercises and keep it safe for your participants. You want to have armless chairs, because if you had an arm on the chair, it makes it really hard to do those bicep curls if you're seated. Dumbbells and ankle weights, and you have the option to purchase one ankle weight for each participant, or they can bring their own. I know in my county, I went ahead and purchased one for each ankle, so they didn't have to swap in between. That really helped with the flow of the exercises. Also exercise mats and a storage rack, which you see here on the screen. And this is a photo from Angela in Wisconsin, but I think Jan and I both have that same rack or something similar to it. It's really helpful. And antibacterial cleaning wipes for our mats post-session. Now, other helpful supplies, seems silly, but clipboards are very helpful for that strength training tracking each week. And I love the little rubber pencil clip on the bottom. It just adds a little value, and the participants love it. They like keeping their same pencil. You can get a plastic container for your clipboards. They even have rolling carts too for those as well. Always having water available for your participants. I encourage you to also maybe have like peanut butter crackers, something, a little snack just in case, as well as towels. I encourage my participants to bring those when they come.
Right, so in conclusion, of course, this is an evidence-based strength training program. It is definitely effective for improving strength and flexibility in older adults. The participants typically improve their functional fitness, which is great. It helps them to live independently longer and slow the progression of sarcopenia while taking steps to maintain their independence. So this is some feedback that Wendy and I received from some of our class participants. Wonderful exercise for us seniors, in quotation marks, and I feel much better than I did. And in this particular photo, this group was my pandemic group, which I'm kind of sad to say we were not able to complete a full series with them. We stopped about midway through, but they were truly inspiring for me. The two ladies that you see on the very front row, the person in the yellow shirt and the lady that's sitting beside her with the red headband. She was my oldest participant out of every series. She was 94 years old. Sassy and inspiring for everybody. She just became like our motivation for every class. She participated and did every single exercise, no matter if she had to modify it. Sometimes I wouldn't even say a modification and she would do it on her own. So she was truly inspiring for me as a leader and for the rest of the participants in the class. And here are some references that we used. And we're also going to put in the chat 2 videos, as Wendy mentioned before. The video demonstrations, you will have access to that in the toolkit. So we're going to put 2 links there, YouTube videos. One link is for beginner exercises, and the second link is for intermediate. Like Wendy said, if you have those repeat participants, you want to keep them engaged, you want to keep them challenged. So the second set would help you do that. So a special thank you before we end. Shireen Campbell-Riley, she has been active in our chat. She's been posting all of our links for us. A special thank you to her. Shireen started this class with me, and she would be in every single class with me. She could spot incorrect form and say, hey, you need to look at Miss So-and-so for the next class and make sure that they're doing it correctly. We have had to lift participants off the floor together. So we really developed this class and established a good rapport with each and every one of our participants. And Marie, she is here. She's very new to Orange County, but she was able to get my Qualtrics up and running in about 3 days. So that's ready to go for my next series. And I'm just so appreciative for both of these ladies being here to help us today and past and presently. And here is our contact information. So if you need to reach either of us, we have our direct phone numbers to our desk and our emails. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions about anything. And at this time, we are ready to answer any questions that you might have about the presentation or the program.